let's be very clear, so that we don't miss on anything, but the team would be available to really support and ensure that we are moving together. It's not the same if we were having a physical meeting. I know it would be different, but given the circumstances and the situation currently we are in, so we have to work with what we have. So karibuni to this training, and feel free to give your suggestions on how best we can improve the coming trainings, so that we can see how to change. If there's anything that needs to be changed, your feedback will be very, very valuable. So thanks, and over to you, Otieno.
Thank you very much, Dana, for the remarks. So I guess we can now begin. So today we are going to limit our training to KenyaEMR. So we are going to set up the KenyaEMR environment and also set up the KenyaEMR itself. I think once we get our KenyaEMR running, we'll end the day at that. So then tomorrow we begin from something else. So before we begin, I think we can have a brief presentation just to kind of introduce the whole concept of KenyaEMR and OpenMRS. So I think I'll just share my screen.
Otieno,
yeah.
Not why is the session recorded? Someone is asking.
Yes, the session is being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just take you through a very brief introduction to KenyaEMR. And I guess when we are talking about KenyaEMR, it is always important to note that KenyaEMR runs.
Are we still on? Maybe my internet is wiki. I'm hearing my own thing.
Nicholas, can you see my screen? Could anyone confirm if the screen is visible?
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible.
Thank you.
It is visible.
It is visible.
Okay. Yeah, so as I said, I'm just going to kind of make a brief introduction to KenyaEMR. So as I was saying that KenyaEMR runs on top of OpenMRS. So when we are talking about KenyaEMR, I think we need to, in the back of our mind, we need to know that it runs on OpenMRS. So then that means KenyaEMR is just a module or an add-on on top of OpenMRS. So in my presentation, I'm going to focus on about few areas about the architecture of OpenMRS and some of the architectural components, the data model for OpenMRS, which also is being used by KenyaEMR, and also a bit of KenyaEMR navigation, and also some of the reports that are available. So looking at it as of OpenMRS is an open source application. That means it is open and free. You can access the code, modify, and reuse. And it offers a lot of APIs that any other application can port into and access. And it can also port into other applications seamlessly and also access. So it uses some web apps, and also with also making use of a centralized concept dictionary. That means all the variables and all the questions and answers are defined as concept dictionary, which then can be reused throughout the application. And also in terms of design, OpenMRS has been designed by use of various modules and plugins, and this critically allows for expandability And also in terms of programming, it uses Java. It has been programmed using Java, and also employs the use of Hibernate and Spring frameworks. And of course, it is a web-based system employing the use of languages like HTML, CSS, and stuff. And as I said, it is free and available in GitHub. You can always access the code base inside GitHub. So in terms of architecture, OpenMRS is 3-layered. So it has got 3 tiers. That is the presentation layer, which faces the user. That is what the user interacts with. And then it has got the service layer that interacts with presentation layer and also the data access layer. So then lastly, we have the data access layer, which is simply the database that the application, the system is using to store whichever data that it needs to store. So I think the most important thing here is about that layering, the 3-tier architecture, which separates those 3 layers, which improves a bit of, it reduces a bit of dependency, then makes it easier for maintenance. So I'll share with you a few of some of the architectural components that are applied. Some have improved over time. I think this slide is slightly old, but you'll realize that basically they remain the same, though with a bit of improvement. So you have modules, and also at the presentation layer, you have those technologies like the AngularJS, HTML5, and all that. Then we have the REST APIs under the service, including the OpenMRS API itself. And recently we have the FHIR API, which sometimes is known as FHIR, which is also being utilized in OpenMRS. Then at the database level, we have MySQL as the database manager at the database layer. So you have all that, and you can read more about it at your own time using the reference that I'm going to provide at the end of this. So in terms of the data model, so OpenMRS is based on the EAV data model, ATT attribute value data model, which again kind of addresses the who, the what, and the hows, especially for the medical encounters that we provide to the clients, also the patients. And you'll find that the core data model is divided into about 10 basic domains as listed on your screen. So you'll find that OpenMRS utilizes concepts. Also, it supports various encounters, and the encounters comes in form of a form, which is then filled for a particular patient. And inside the forms, there are various observations that are captured within a single form. And then we also have order. Then we also have patient. Then we have the user, person, business, and lastly, we have groups or the workflows as part of the EAV data model. So you can read more about this from the online reference. If you look at just below your screen, you'll see the source, http devmanual.openmrs.org. You can read more about this there. Then when it comes to, this is not very clear, but this is kind of just gives you an idea on how various database objects or the tables are related in the background. It's supposed to be bigger than this, but my screen cannot kind of contain all of it. But it kind of gives you an idea on how various objects, that database objects, are linked to each other to achieve the strong referential integrity that you realize when working with OpenMRS. Okay, so again, OpenMRS being a global system has been implemented in so many countries. not only in Kenya, but across the globe. And this, I think, this is a very old map. I think we might be having more countries than this implementing OpenMRS. But this is just to give you an idea that Kenya is not alone in terms of implementing OpenMRS solution. We have a number of countries doing the same. So it's just about how do you customize OpenMRS to suit your own in-country use cases. Now, for example, in Kenya, we have KenyaEMR, which is just a little customization of OpenMRS to suit our own local use case. Okay, so I guess you're still able to see my screen. So that is the reference URL. You can always go in and read that for yourself. So that brings us to the end of the introduction to OpenMRS, upon which KenyaEMR has been built. Okay. So let me just. So given that background, I think now we are ready to kind of proceed with our installation. Again, in the communication, we had shared a couple of links and a couple of resources that we were hoping that all the participants will be able to download in readiness for the training today. So the first thing we need to do is to install the environment. Now, the environment upon which KenyaEMR runs is Ubuntu or Linux, if you will. So we have two flavors of Linux that we usually use. We have a desktop Linux or desktop Ubuntu, and also we have Ubuntu server. So we can be able to install KenyaEMR on any of the two, depending on your hardware resource, and also depending on the preference of the person doing the installation or of the facility. But there are advantages and disadvantages for both. So you'll realize that there are advantages that you can gain when you install KenyaEMR on top of Ubuntu server. And there are also disadvantages with that, though not as many. Then also there are advantages in installing KenyaEMR upon Ubuntu desktop. Okay, so I want to give you a taste of both. So what we are going to do right now, we are going to install the Ubuntu environment, where we are going to start with how to install Ubuntu server. Then the next thing, we are going to look at how do we install Ubuntu desktop. For the purposes of our presentation today, for the purposes of this training, we are going to install KenyaEMR on Ubuntu desktop, just for ease of use, and also to ensure that we don't scare anyone from utilizing the Ubuntu environment. But I think during your own time, you can also explore installing KenyaEMR on Ubuntu server. We have all the resources available that you can refer to support you in that. So I guess I can, I'll request that you have your Ubuntu server ISO file ready. I'm also requesting that you have the VirtualBox ready, so then we can start the installation process. We are going to install Ubuntu server.
So when you say have it ready, do you mean install it, the VirtualBox?
Yes, kindly install the VirtualBox. So maybe I should share my screen so then we all do this together. So once you install VM, which is it's not supposed to take long to install, we are all supposed to start from here. And I want to believe that you're able to see my screen. So I'll give 2 minutes for us to install the VirtualBox. Then we can start from there. Meanwhile, if at all there's any question or any need for clarification, kindly type it in the text area. We will be able to respond to you. Okay, I want to believe that we've all installed the VirtualBox. Is there anyone who is yet to install the VirtualBox?
Yeah, it's finishing up.
Sorry?
About 2 seconds, it's finishing up.
Okay. So I want to believe we are all ready. We are set up to start. I just need a confirmation from one person.
Yes, we are ready.
Thank you.
I'm ready.
Yeah, that's more accurate. I'm ready. Okay. So on the sides, I guess we need to have, on the sides, you need to have the Ubuntu versions ready. So we are going to start from the Ubuntu server. I have mine ready. That is what we are going to install. So I just want to be sure that you have it somewhere ready. So then when we are going to need it, you'll be able to access it readily. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is to create our machine. We are going to create, for lack of a better term, we are going to create a computer within a computer. So like, for instance, I'm going to create my small machine inside my laptop. So how do we do that? Now, on the VirtualBox manager, the one you are able to see on your screen, on your left, I'm going to click on new. So I'm going to click on new. So I'm going to create a new machine. So kindly click new. New. So new what? New machine. So we are going to give our machine a name. So the name of this machine, I'll call it Ubuntu server. I'll just call it Ubuntu server, but when you're doing this for your facility, you may just want to call it, you may just want to give it a good name. Machine folder, please don't change that. The operating system type, kindly select Linux from the list, and the version is supposed to be Ubuntu 64-bit as per the instructions that was given in the communication. So once you do that, please click next. So in the machine that we are going to create, in the laptop or in the desktop that we are going to create, we need to allocate the memory size. So you can create the memory size up to the 3/4 of the physical memory that you have. So in my case, I happen to have 16 GB of memory, but then I can allocate up to 3/4 of that. So I just want to allocate about, let me allocate so that we accommodate as many people. Let's just give it 2048. So that is 2 GB of memory that we are going to allocate to, to this computer that we are creating. So I want to hope that everyone has done that. You have allocated 2048 for the memory. Then you click next. Now, we want to assign a hard disk to our virtual machine. So we don't need to change anything right here. We just say create a virtual hard disk now. Don't change anything, just click create. Which type of disk file do you want to use? You can use any type that is provided. You can use the disk image, or you can use the virtual machine disk. Personally, I prefer using the virtual machine disk. So I'll advise you to click on the last one, which is the VMDK. Then you click next. So the storage on the physical hard disk, you don't need to change. Let's leave it as a dynamic allocation. So then our disk can be allocated based on need. So then you don't have to kind of have a fixed partition for that. So we'll just leave it at that and click next. So how much of the disk space do we want to allocate? By default, it is coming to 10 GB. You can increase it. Like for me, I would increase it to 30 GB. But you can, I think the minimum you need to do is about 20 GB. So for now, let's just allocate 20 and then you create. So up to this point, we just click create. Okay, so you should have what I have. You should have your machine created right there on the left. So now we have a computer. We have a virtual computer. So the only thing now we need to do is to install an operating system, just like you will do when you have bought your new machine. Okay. Okay. So the next thing we are going to do, I want to believe that everyone, okay, someone needs assistance. We are behind any disk ID is provided. Jane, someone is going to log into your machine in a few minutes and help you with that. Okay, so as someone still, one guy is saying that installation is taking a while. Don't worry, I will be able to catch up. Just let it install. So now we have a machine. Now we have a computer, you can call it a desktop or a laptop, but it is a virtual machine. So what we need now to do is to install an operating system. So now I want to believe that you have the ISO file ready, the file that you downloaded, the Ubuntu installation file. Let me check if I have mine ready. Yeah, mine is here. So you have yours ready, then we proceed. But first, you need to power up your machine. How do we power up the virtual machine? Just double click on the name of the machine. The indication right now is powered off. So when I double click, it's supposed to start powering on. Okay. So when you power on your machine, it will ask you to specify where the operating system is. So this is the point where you are going to point to the operating system or the installation media that you had already gotten from the internet. So mine, I'll just pick my URL. So you need to click on the yellow icon, the yellow folder icon, so that you can navigate to where the installation file is. Then you can start the installation. Okay, so I'm going to click on that yellow icon. Then it is taking me to where my installation file is. Then from here, I'm selecting Ubuntu server, and I said we are going to install Ubuntu 16. So please select Ubuntu server and then open. So at this point, I want to believe that everyone has done that before we start installing the operating system. So I don't know if I'm leaving anyone behind. You can raise up your hand or you can type it on the chat area. So then someone can log in and support you. Okay, I can see a hand. Austin, what do you have to say?
Yes, thanks, Bernard. So far, so good. Just asking, if you had the Ubuntu file downloaded but not on a flash disk, it's on downloads of the same computer. Is it able to pick it from the same computer, or I must take it back to the, or I must take it to the flash disk or removable disk?
No, at this point, it is accessing your machine. It is accessing your physical machine. So whether you put it in C or on desktop, you just navigate to that desktop and then point to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Grace McKenna is stuck in the installation of VirtualBox. Grace, please share your AnyDesk or TeamViewer ID. Someone will be able to support you from there. So I think we need to continue. So I've already specified the path to my installation file. So I simply click Start. So then I can start the installation. Okay. So the first step is to choose the language you want to use. So in this case, I want to use English. One thing to remember, the moment we start off with this installation, please put aside your mouse, because now we are not going to use the mouse during the entire period of this installation. we are going to use our keyboard. So English is selected by default. So simply click, just press enter. Okay. Then the next thing, we just need to install Ubuntu server. So we just press on the keyboard, we press enter. Meanwhile, someone called Ochanji, please share your details, any desk or team viewer, so then you can be supported. Thank you. All right, back to the installation. I think the language is still English, so just press enter. And as you realize, much of what we are going to do is just pressing enter all the way. The location, of course, Africa is not listed here. So we'll just use the United Kingdom or United States, depending on whichever format you like. Personally, I prefer United Kingdom. We were colonized by them, so maybe we can speak something close. So the keyboard layout, it is asking us whether we want to detect the keyboard layout. At this point, I don't want that, so I say no. I just press enter. So kindly press enter as we continue. Okay, the keyboard language, I'll insist on English UK. It is selected by default, so we just press enter. Okay, the keyboard layout is still UK, English UK. So at this point, just press enter. So we'll wait for it to load all the necessary file components before we continue. Meanwhile, for those who have any issue with the installation, I hope you're being helped right now. Okay, so now we are going to configure the network, but first we need to know the host name. So usually the host name, we usually have the name of the facility as the host name. For in this case, we can just use a test facility name. So I'll just use a test facility name. So I'll just remove the Ubuntu as host name and then just write test facility. Please don't use any caps on this. Everything is in lowercase. So I'm just going to type test facility. Okay, so that is my host name. Then I press enter. Now it is asking us for the full name of the new user. So most of the time, our username, the full username is the full name of the facility where you want to deploy this particular machine. So if it is test facility, or if your facility is called Nairobi Hospital, you can write it as such with space and with the uppercase. So at this point, uppercase is allowed and spaces are allowed. So like I can now write test facility with spaces and also with uppercase. Once you do that, you just press enter. The username for the account, again, no spaces allowed, no uppercase allowed. You just type the username. So I'll just use the same username. I'll just type test facility. Okay. So then the next thing is I'll press continue. I'll just press enter. So I'd also wish that you just press enter, then we continue. Then the next screen is where we need to choose our password for the new user. So the password is any character from 4 to n. So you can type in any password that is hard enough for the hacker, but easy enough for you to remember. So in my case, I'll just type test 1, 2, 3. Okay, then press enter. We need to confirm that password. I'll just type again, test 1, 2, 3. Then I continue. Ideally, the password is weak, as we can see. So we need to confirm to the machine that we are intentionally using a weak password. So select yes. If at all you are asked that question, select yes. Do you need to encrypt your home directory? At this point, there is no need to. So just select no and press enter. Then we wait for the installation to take place, where it is going to configure our clock. It's going to configure the IP address. So the clock is supposed to be identified automatically. It is supposed to be detected automatically so long as you are on the internet. So as you can see, Africa Nairobi is automatically selected. So we'll just go by that. We are in Africa and our closest city is Nairobi. So we say yes. So how do you want to partition the hard disk? I'll always use the second one, the one that is selected by default. I'll use the guided, where I'm going to use the entire local volume. So just press enter on that, don't change anything. My disk, as I selected it, it was 20 GB and I can see it is there. So just press enter to select the entire partition. Do you want to write the changes to the disk right now and configure the local volume? Media, yes. So we are just going to say yes. So select yes using you can use the tab or you can use the direction keys and then press enter. Do you want to use the entire volume of 20 GB? Yes. So we just say continue. All those changes, do you want to write them to the disk? Yes. Select yes and press enter. So we just wait for the system to install. So again, as we wait for the installation to continue, it is good to clarify. I think it is very important at this point to clarify that we are only using the virtual box or the virtual environment for training purposes. At the facility, we use that machine. We install Ubuntu on the machine. We don't use the virtual environment. So just for all of us to be aware, please don't use VM. Don't use a virtual machine at the facility. At the facility, use the physical machine. So I just thought that is important to clarify. And again, I think from the charts we are seeing, there are people who have difficulties installing the virtual box. simply because maybe it is not configured in their machine. So for you to use the virtualization, you have to enable it from the BIOS. So if your machine is already enabled, well and good. But if your machine is not enabled, then you might have some difficulties starting a VM on your machine. But I guess our team are going to take you through that and help you to get through. Okay. So the last bit is where we are required to specify the HTTP proxy information. You don't need to write anything there. Just select continue and press enter. So then the installation can continue. So as we wait for this to complete, maybe let me just confirm if the following partners are on board. UMB Timiza. Do we have anyone from UMB Timiza? Okay, Afya Jijini. Okay. Do we have anyone from Health Strat? No one from Health Strat. Do we have anyone from ICAP?
Yes, present.
Karibu.
Yes, present.
Anyone from Children of God Relief Institute? None. Anyone from AHF?
Present.
Yes, present.
Present. Kisumu West.
Anyone from UMB Park Tendeleza? Anybody from Bomu?
Present.
Karibu. And lastly, anyone from Afya Pwani?
Yes, please. Please come by.
Karibu sana. Okay. So Ubuntu server is being installed. We are just waiting as it gets installed. So we may just want to give it a few minutes. I think it's about 1 minute, 20 seconds remaining. Meanwhile, we are supporting the guys who had challenges, various challenges, so then they can also catch up with the rest. If you have a question, please feel free to ask, and also feel free to type in the text area. Thank you. Okay, so depending on the speed of your network, mine is done, and I guess maybe a couple of others are also done. So at this point, we are being asked how we want to manage our upgrades on this particular system. So my advice is that we need to allow for security updates to install automatically. As long as the system is online, we are supposed to have the security updates taking place in the background, just to ensure that our operating system is secure. So we select the second option. Kindly select the second option and press enter. Then we need to select what we want to install. At this point, we'll just select the manual package selection, the standard system utilities, and the last one will select OpenSSH server. So those three are important at this point. And how do we select them? Using our keyboard. So you simply use the direction key up or down, and then you select by tapping on the space bar. Okay, so I want to select the manual package selection. I just press on my space bar, then I get an asterisk. Then I go all the way down to the OpenSSH and also press the space bar. So I have the three applications selected: OpenSSH server, the standard system utilities, and the manual package selection. So once I do that, I select continue and I press enter. So those will be installed in a few moments, I think will be done. Okay, so up to this point, I think we are almost finishing the installation of the operating system. So we are being asked to specify where we want to install the master boot record, which in Ubuntu language is called the grab file. So we don't need to change this. We just say yes, and that is already selected for us by default. So you just press enter. So then it can be installed in the default location. Okay, so we are done here, and we are told the installation is complete. So it is time to boot into your new system. So we just click continue, then we can boot into our system. So I'll just press continue. Then my virtual computer will reboot. And there we have it. So this is how Ubuntu server looks like. So the only thing I need to do here to confirm is to log in using my username. My username was test facility. Then my password, which was test123. Then I press enter. So from where you are, you can see I'm successfully logged in into Ubuntu server. So now I can install KenyaEMR from here going forward. But as I shared before, we are not going to install KenyaEMR on Ubuntu server, but rather we are going to install it on Ubuntu desktop. So that means we'll have to install the Ubuntu desktop, then we can proceed with the KenyaEMR installation. So once again, I think we've seen what the process looks like. It's not very difficult. Let us not get scared with the dark screen. It's supposed to be very easy. So I think the next thing is if there are no more questions, then we can proceed and install Ubuntu. Just for clarity, we are not going to install both operating systems on one machine. You choose which one you'd want to install. I've already installed Ubuntu server. I think you've, as participants, you have been able to follow. So the next thing we want to install is Ubuntu desktop. So then we see how that is done. Then we move to installation of KenyaEMR, which is supposed to be pretty simple. Okay. So if there is any question, I can see from the chat, which is recommended, server or desktop? I think we'll get to answer that towards the tail end of this training. So then you understand clearly what are the weaknesses and strengths of those two options. Okay. So I'll just shut down my Ubuntu server machine. I'll just close it. Then I power off the machine. So kindly power off so that we can jointly install Ubuntu desktop before we proceed to KenyaEMR. Okay.
Hey, Bernard.
Yes.
On the downloads,
Yes.
There were two sets that in the Ubuntu, there was desktop and there was server. Were we supposed to download both of them or only the desktop?
No, we were supposed to download both because I wanted to show you how to install both. But for the purposes of installing KenyaEMR, we are going to use Ubuntu desktop.
Okay.
So as you can see on your screen, I have two. I have a desktop and I also have server. So that's ideally what we had expected.
Okay. So for those people who have desktop like me only,
then we are going to go through desktop together. But at your own time, you can go through how to install server. I think it is a skill you want to have. Someone is saying that the machine is very slow. Could we slow down a little bit? I believe, yes, we can slow down, but I guess again, don't worry, even if you are lagging behind, you will be supported to catch up with everyone. As long as we have your team viewer or any desk ID, we'll be able to help you get up to speed. So why don't we install Ubuntu desktop so then we can start off doing our KenyaEMR installation. So at this point, I don't want to delete my machine. I just want to leave it there, but I want to get another machine, which now I'm going to install Ubuntu desktop on. Okay, so again, on the VirtualBox manager, please select new. Select new, you can click on new. The name of the computer, I'll call it Ubuntu desktop. The type of the operating system is still Linux, and the version is Ubuntu 64-bit. Okay, so click next. The memory allocation, let's give it the same. So let's give it 2048. Let's give it 2 GB. 2048. 2048. Next. Create a virtual hard disk now. Don't change that. Just click create. Hard disk file type, as I advised earlier, let's use the virtual machine disk, the last one, VMDK. Then next. Storage allocation, let's leave it at dynamically allocated. Next. File location and size, let's specify the size to be, let's just do 20 GB for the purposes of this training. So I'll select 20 GB, but you can give it all the way to 2 terabytes if your hard disk so allows. Then we click create. Okay, so at this point, I want to believe that now we have 2 machines. Ubuntu server, that is a different machine. Ubuntu desktop, now that is our new machine that we are going to use for KenyaEMR installation. But before that, let's install the operating system. So the operating system is what you have downloaded, the ISO file that you have downloaded called Ubuntu desktop. And at this point, we are using version 16.04. Okay, so let's proceed. Let's proceed. So we are going to start, we are going to power on our machine. We are by double clicking the machine name, Ubuntu desktop. So when I double click on that, I'm supposed to get the window that will ask me to specify the installation folder. So again, at this point, let's click on the small folder, the small folder icon, so that we can now specify the location of our installation file. All right, I'm there. So at this point, I'm going to select Ubuntu desktop. Kindly select Ubuntu desktop, the one that you have downloaded. Then you open that and click start. So when you click start, our installation process is supposed to be initiated. So I'll click start. So different from what we did earlier, Ubuntu desktop allows us to use our mouse and keyboard jointly. So it is more user-friendly because it is a familiar interface that we can interact with in real time. So feel free to use your mouse as we do the installation. Okay, so the first thing is to specify what we want to do, whether we want to try Ubuntu without installation or whether we want to proceed and install. So at this point, I think our choice is easy. We are going to install Ubuntu. So just click install Ubuntu. We don't want to download while installing because that will take some time. We don't have much time. So just leave the checkboxes unchecked and click continue. Yeah, what do we need to do at this point? We need to erase disk and install Ubuntu. So remember our disk space is 20 GB as we had specified. So we are going to format that particular space and install Ubuntu. So you just click on that if it is not clicked, and then click install now. Okay. Do you want to write the changes to the hard disk? Yes. Continue. So we need to specify our city. So our city is Nairobi. Mine is already checked. If yours is not, you can find it on the map and click on it. If you are good in the geography and you know where to locate Nairobi. All right. Next, we just click continue. Okay, so we are going to be asked the same questions that we were being asked on Ubuntu server. So the first question is the keyboard layout. I leave it as it is and just click continue. Then we need to specify the name. So the first name is the name of the facility. And I'm sure some of you might be wondering, how do you get the continue button? Please try to drag your screen across the screen. Just drag that particular dialog box across your screen, so then you can access the hidden buttons, especially when your driver looks like mine, which is very tiny. Okay, so on this particular screen, you will need to type the name. Here, the name that we need is the name of the facility, assuming we are doing this for a particular facility. So I'll just say test facility. Okay. Then the computer name, I can remove all this and just type test facility. The computer name should not have spaces and should not have uppercase. Then the username, I can see test is already picked for me, but I can make it test facility. I can make it text facility. Then the password, my password remains test123. And again, I confirm that. So at this point, I have all the ticks. As much as my password is complexity is about fair, but I'm okay with that. So I'll just click continue. So at this point, the installation will start, where it will be copying all the necessary files, and we can wait for that to continue as we help those who are remaining behind. Thanks, Keronei Lincoln, for the advice. I think that's a very interesting advice for people who need to access their BIOS and enable the virtualization. And I think if you have been supported and you are able to continue, please confirm for us on the chat so that someone else doesn't have to log into your machine. Just confirm that you've been sorted so then we can support other people. So we'll wait for this installation to complete before we conclude.
Just log you. What is the date? So if the system says that based on what you are keyed in, this is a client that no longer needs that follow-up tool, it will not go. So like in an
Yeah, so this process seems to be taking a bit of time simply because it is trying to retrieve some of the new files from the internet. That's why it takes a while. But again, you can always bypass this by simply disabling your network. So then it uses whatever it is that is in the installation package. But I guess it is advisable that you just let it download the new files and let the installation proceed uninterrupted. That way you end up with a more stable environment as opposed to when you skip it. So I think let's just continue waiting for it to conclude. Then we can start installing KenyaEMR. Meanwhile, for those who are being supported, we hope you are catching up fine. So I don't know if there's any question or comment from the team as we wait for this to finish. Okay, seems like there's none. So I want to hope at this point that everyone is with me and everyone is installing. As much as I can't see you, but I can feel you. Okay, yeah, so it's almost done. Yeah, meanwhile, there is a question about whether Ubuntu installation should only be done on a server computer, or is it compatible with all the machines? Yeah, the answer is yes, you can install Ubuntu server. Server is the environment, so it is a bit agnostic when it comes to the hardware. So you can install Ubuntu server either on a desktop or on a server, whichever you choose, it will go through. Yeah. So as you can see, my Ubuntu desktop installation is successful. So all I need to do is to restart my brand new operating system. Then from there, I'll be ready to install KenyaEMR. Okay, so I guess all of you have been able to be successful. So then both of us, we can all work to install KenyaEMR. So I'll just give it a few more minutes to restart by pressing enter, so then it can restart. Okay, so that is how Ubuntu desktop looks like, and I'm sure you can relate. For those of us who are supporting IQK and KenyaEMR, I'm sure you've always related to this particular login screen. So this shows us that we are successful. We can just log in. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of the installation of Ubuntu flavors, Ubuntu server, and Ubuntu desktop. So all these are available in our capacity building resources that you can always access through data warehouse resource page, or you can access them through the YouTube channel. We have videos that are taking you through step by step on how to install all of this. So you can always find those materials on YouTube, and then you do it on your own. So at this point, because of time, I think we can now start off installing the KenyaEMR using the Ubuntu desktop. So if there is no reason for us to wait, I've not seen any hand up or any comment. That means we are all set. We may begin on the KenyaEMR installation. Again, if you are not with us, if you remain behind for some reason, let us know so that we can support you. So the second phase of this, I'm going to usher in my colleague, Frida Oyucho and Ken Ogutu, who are going to take us through the KenyaEMR installation. That is supposed to be very quick, so then we end this by about 3:30, 4 or 4:30 thereabouts. So just be with us as we do this up to the end. So Frida, if you are in the room, kindly take it away and take us through the installation of KenyaEMR. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernard. So my name is Frida Oyucho. So I'm going to take you through how to install KenyaEMR. Let me just share my screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is to copy all the files that I'm going to require for the installation, and then just put them somewhere in home. So you'll also be expected to do the same. So when you're using virtual machine, you might not be able to mount your hard disk. So you'll require a flash disk to carry all the materials that you need, and then put them in the home. So after you mounted your hard flash disk, I'm just going to show you how to make sure that your flash disk is visible from the virtual machine, so that now you can use it, you can have your materials available to use. So after you mounted your flash disk, you just come to device, Under USB, you'll be able to choose your flash disk. Then you'll just give it a few minutes for it to mount. So we're just giving it a few minutes to mount. So just give me a few minutes to sort it out. So as my files are copying, I hope you're also doing the same from your end. So the other reason why we are also copying these files, especially the SOP, is because of time. I would want all of us to just copy the commands. Copy the commands directly from the SOP. First of all, because to reduce wastage of time, and also just for efficiency. Okay. So I'm just going to open my SOP. And then I'm also going to open the terminal. So the first thing that we're going to install, when you're installing KenyaEMR, we have 3 prerequisites. So we have Java, we have Tomcat 6, and then we have MySQL. So the first thing we're going to install is Java. So if you look at the SOP, under installation of Java, there's part A and then there's part B. For this session, because I believe we are doing it freshly, we don't really need to go to install anything from part A. So we're just going to jump directly to part B.
So if I might interrupt, Frida, I think there are a couple of questions. Someone would want to know how you had mounted the USB in the Ubuntu environment. On the other hand, someone is asking where to get the blank OpenMRS file. So Dominic, I'm going to share the link right here on the chat for you. For Matthews, I think Frida can take you through how to mount the USB, believing that you have all these resources. And again, as Frida continues, we ask kindly that you have your SOP opened maybe on the side window so that you can copy the commands and paste them on the command window. We really don't have time to type, and most of the time when you're typing, you are likely to get it wrong when you're typing. So we'll encourage you to just copy and paste the commands as they are and paste them in the command window. So you can open your SOP on the sides and copy those particular commands. Dominic, I'm sharing that in a moment. Okay, you can proceed.
Oh, okay. So let me show you how to mount. So you simply come to, after you've opened your machine, you simply come to devices. So under devices, there is USB option. So if you just point your mouse to the USB, then on your far right, you'll be able to see your USB, the one that you mounted on your machine. So you simply choose, and then you give it a few minutes, and then it will be mounted in the machine. I don't want to unmount mine and mount again because of time. I don't know if that is clear. Okay. So I believe that is clear. So we are simply going to dive into installation of Java. So like I said, we are not going to type because of time. So there's also a question from asking why are you downgrading Java? We are not downgrading Java. So because this is a fresh installation, for KenyaEMR, we require Java version 1.7. So sometimes when you install Java, the default normally goes to Java 1.8. So now when you start installation, we require you to remove it first before now you embark on installing Java 1.7. But for this purpose, for the purpose of demonstration, and because we are specifically targeting Java 1.7, we are simply going direct to installing Java 1.7. So we are not downgrading at this point. Okay, and also if there was an existing Java in your machine, that is Java 1.8, then that is, you'd be forced to do the first part, that is the part A of the installation, just to remove it. And then after removing it, then now you do part B to install Java 1.7. I hope that is clear. So I'm going to So now we're going to install Java 1.7. So I'm simply going to copy. Remember, when you are installing anything in KenyaEMR, we normally work from the terminal. So kindly locate your terminal if you can't. Just use the shortcuts Control, Alt, and T. Okay, so let me just open it. So if you just press down Control, Alt, and then press on T, then you'll be able to see a purplish screen, that is the terminal. So this is where we're going to run all our commands to be able to install the KenyaEMR application. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to copy paste. So I'm going to paste my very first command. So we are going to also just follow the SOP. So kindly while I do it, also do it from your end, but make sure you copy paste the right commands at the right time, okay? So the moment you copy paste the repository command, the system will require you to key in the password. This is the password that you had configured when you are installing Ubuntu Desktop. So mine was test123. Okay, then it will require you to press enter to continue. Okay, then after it's done, everything that is supposed to be imported will be imported. Then when you see a $sign in front of the facility name that you had configured, that means you're back now to the home. Okay, so that means from here now we can continue to the next command. So after running the repository command, we're now going to run the next command. That is, we're going to update sudo apt-get update. So we're going to run that as well. Also, something else to note, while you are installing prerequisites for KenyaEMR, you need to have internet. Downloading, installing Java, MySQL, and Tomcat 6, otherwise you'll not be able to install either of them. Okay, so I've already updated. So the next thing that I'm going to do is now to do the actual installation of Java 1.7. So I'm going to copy the same and paste. So it will require you to press yes for continue or no if you don't want to continue. So I'm just going to type in there yes and then press enter. So what is happening currently is we are installing Java 1.7. So it might take some few minutes or some few seconds depending on the speed of your machine and the internet. So up to there, I don't know if there's anybody who is left behind or who is stuck somewhere. So the other reason why we're installing these 3 prerequisites. So to start with Java. So KenyaEMR is a Java-based application. I think from Bernard Otieno's first presentation, he talked about it being the base code. And then for Tomcat 6, that is basically a web app manager. So OpenMRS uses Tomcat 6. And then for MySQL, it's just the database management system that KenyaEMR uses. So that is why we need to install the 3 prerequisites. So as my Java is installing, I hope your Java is installing as well, so that we move together. While we continue to wait, kindly also just type in any questions that you have in the chat box, and our team are standby. They're going to respond. So now we've installed Java. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to install Tomcat 6. So the first thing we're going to, of course, install is the repository. So I'm just going to copy that and paste. Okay, then now we're going to update. Okay, so we'll also let that run.
Yeah, this installation must take long. Are you loading on a remote server or your local server?
Sorry? So the next thing we're going to do is to install Tomcat 6. So we're going to say yes, we want to continue with the installation. So we're also going to give it time just to install all the dependencies and files. So something else to note, it might seem like it's taking a bit of time. Now it's because I don't think the internet from my side is very optimal. That is why it's taking a lot of time, but it should be very fast if your internet is okay. So after that is done, now we're going to install Tomcat 6 admin. which is optional. You can install it, or you can just, you don't really have to install it. Okay, so once we're not going to install MySQL. So as I had mentioned before, if you have existing MySQL in your machine, then you'll first have to clear it first, remove it by the part A of the SOP. But if you're doing a fresh installation like what you're doing currently, you'll just go to part B. So because we had already, also something else to note, repositories for Tomcat and MySQL are the same. So we don't have to run the first command when you're installing MySQL 5.6. So what you're going to do is you're going to go directly to updating MySQL before now we install. So we're just going to copy that. And then run it. So once we are done, now we're going to now install 5.6. We're going to say yes to continue with the installation. So this is when now the system will require you to configure the MySQL 5.6 password. So the password that is most likely normally used is test, but you can always use your own password. So I'm going to use test, but remember to use test. It is the recommended password for MySQL. And don't forget to remember the password for MySQL, because remember, you'll need it when you're doing maybe upgrade or when you want to access any database inside the MySQL file, okay? So the password can be anything you want, but you'll have to remember it, okay? So once you're done with that, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to configure a Java heap file. So so I'll just type it. Okay, so this is the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste from the SOP. Sorry. So I'm just going to copy paste all this.
Hi, Frida, don't run so fast. You're following.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Also note exactly where we are pasting the Java heap memory. So it's just below. There's a statement, Java opts. So just below that is where you're going to copy paste your configuration for the memory. Okay. So whatever we are pasting is the standard memory allocation, but you can always do more. You can always expand.
Yes.
Depending on your physical machine. Okay. So once you've copy pasted, then what I'm going to do is just to save. After it has saved, I'm going to close the file. Okay, so I don't know if we are together up to that point. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is we're just going to restart MySQL. Okay. So up to that point, is there anybody who is stuck somewhere? Is there anybody who needs help when it comes to installing the 3 prerequisites for KenyaEMR? Okay, so there's a request to kindly repeat from Tomcat. So we're just going to do it from the SOP, but I'm not going to do it physically because I've installed Tomcat already. So if you look at your SOP, under Tomcat, for you to install Tomcat, you'll first install its repositories. That is the first command, sudo add apt repository, and then everything else. Then once you've done that, then you'll update your system, sudo apt-get update. Then once you're done, you're going to install now Tomcat 6. Sudo apt-get install Tomcat 6. Then we said for Tomcat 6 admin, it is optional to install it. So you can either install it or you can decide to skip it and go ahead and install MySQL. Okay, and after you've installed all this, kindly ensure that your MySQL is running. Okay, so if you restart MySQL the way I've done, using the command that the last command that I sudo update, all that, then it's supposed to return you to home. Okay, so the command that I have is supposed to restart the MySQL in your computer every single time you restart. So we are going to now restart the MySQL in the VM. So sudo service MySQL restart. Okay. So my MySQL has restarted. So I'm also going to restart Tomcat. The same command. So sudo service Tomcat 6 restart. Okay, so we are going to wait for Tomcat to restart. So once we've restarted Tomcat and MySQL, now we are going to go to the next part of installation of KenyaEMR, where now we are going to install .openmrs files, the WAR files, the modules, and make sure that KenyaEMR is up and running. So up to that point, I'd like to invite Ogutu to take us through the next step. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Frida, for that wonderful session of installing prerequisites. And I hope all of us were together in this up to that particular point. So our next step, now that we have already installed the prerequisites and also we have updated the Java heap space, and also we have also now automated the automatic restart from SQL. That is under number 5 in this particular SOP, which you also have in the SOP that was shared out and is also available. So what we really need to do from this point, ensure that you have your the installation, the KenyaEMR installation package. You need to have also the blank DB that will help us as we move along. So what we really need to do is to copy the respective files that we need to install in home, and they're available inside this directory that I've just opened. We need the modules. We'll copy the modules for ease of illustration for this particular training. We'll copy them to home, and then we'll also inside the web app directory, we have the OpenMRS file, the web app file that we'll also need. We'll also copy the same to home. So what we'll do is to copy the OpenMRS file to the web apps directory and also give it right so that we move on due to time. So to do that, to copy the WAR file, we'll use the following commands. I hope you'll be able to follow on the screen. So we'll do sudo copy OpenMRS WAR file, and then now we give the path to where we want to copy it to. So that would be, we'll copy it to the web apps folder. I hope you're able to see my screen. So that is where the statement only tells us that we are going to copy the OpenMRS WAR file to the web apps folder. So that is the path to where the web apps directory is. When you press the enter key, we'll have that. So we are going to confirm by doing that. We will cd to that folder and verify whether the file has been copied there or not. So when we list the contents of the directory, you'll find that the WAR file is already there, and as you can see, it's in red, meaning it doesn't have the access right, which we are supposed to give it. So for us to do that, we'll go back one step to Tomcat, and then give the contents of the web app directory the respective rights that they need for the file to run smoothly. So we'll do sudo chmod. So for the access rights, we'll use 755. So when we cd back to web apps, we'll confirm whether, as you can see now, OpenMRS now is in green, meaning that we have granted it the relevant access rights, read rights for it to function optimally. So when you're done with that, we will now go to the next step of creating a directory, that is OpenMRS directory inside Tomcat. We'll cd to Tomcat so that we create that particular directory. So to do that, we use the following command. So inside this Tomcat directory, that is where we are going to create the OpenMRS directory. That is where we are going to have all our modules. They'll be accessed and they'll be running from that particular directory. So we can confirm whether the directory is there or not. We don't have it, so we want to create that particular directory. So for us to do that, we use the command sudo make directory .openmrs. Kindly take note of how the directory name is, and that is how it's supposed to be. So we have a period before O, and O is capital, PEN is small, and MRS is in caps. So don't forget to ensure that how it's written. So when you press enter key, we can confirm. As you can see, the directory is already created there, the .openmrs file, and for from the screen there, you'll note that it is owned by root. So this directory will be operated by Tomcat, and Tomcat needs to have the full rights of this particular directory, and also we also grant it the read right for it to be accessed easily by Tomcat. So to do that, we'll do sudo change ownership. So we are going to change the ownership from root to Tomcat. Okay. So to do that, I hope you're following my screen. Sudo chon Tomcat ;; Tomcat 6. That is Tomcat 6 ;; Tomcat 6, and then the directory name. Change ownership. Chon is change ownership. Are we together? So we'll have dot OpenMRS. So that is how to change ownership. We can confirm that. As you can see, up there we have the ownership was root, but now the directory is owned by Tomcat. Now we need to give it the access rights for OpenMRS to run smoothly. To do that, we'll use the sudo chmod change mod. That will grant it all the necessary rights that it needs to operate successfully. After doing that, now we'll be able to, the next step is to copy the modules directory plus its content. So the directory plus all the modules inside it that we copied. If you come to home, we have the modules directory. If you open inside, it has got several modules. Are we together? Okay, that is noted. So we are going to copy this particular module inside the directory that we just created. So to do that, let's go back, just cd back, and then now we have the following command to help us copy the modules. You can't just copy and paste. So we do sudo copy. Now, this is a directory that has got contents inside. So for us to copy a directory with all the contents, we do the recursive copying so that all the contents plus that particular directory are copied together. So we'll copy the modules, and now we specify where we want to take those particular modules, and we just follow the path. There we are. So let's confirm if the modules are inside there, and also give them the necessary rights and then ownership. So we'll change directory to where you can see we have the modules directory there. And then it's owned by root. And then when we also change directory to modules, you can confirm that the modules have been copied, all of them. They are owned by root, and also they have not been given access rights. So you can note the color, and then after giving the rights and also changing ownership, will also be able to appreciate the changes that have been made. So to do that, we'll go back one step. So to go back one step, from the terminal, you do cd, then space, then 2 periods or full stops, and then you'll go back one step. So we are back from modules to .openmrs file. Change ownership of the modules directory plus all the contents, that is the modules inside it. We use the following commands. So we do sudo change ownership. So that ownership, we want it to be recursive. Okay, so that is change ownership to Tomcat. Okay, So, and then that change is supposed to be recursive. As you can see from the statement that I've just written, we are changing the ownership of the directory modules plus the ownership of the modules inside the module directory. That is what that particular statement is telling us. So when I press enter, you can be able to see that. If I do LL, you'll be able to see that now the modules directory is owned by Tomcat, and that one has been replicated in the modules inside it, as we are going to see. So for us to change, to give the read-write access to the directory and also the modules inside it, we use the following command. We just do sudo. Now I know we are familiar with this particular command, chmod, that is change mode. We do it recursively, 755, and we do it recursively to the module directory plus all its contents. So when we do that, we can see inside the modules and try to confirm, even in case the changes have been made. Okay. So as you can see, the modules have changed ownership from root to Tomcat, Tomcat 6, and also the modules module names have also changed, turned to green, meaning they have the necessary read-write access to run smoothly. I think up to that point we are done. What now we are going to do is to restart Tomcat. And then now we continue with the installation from the browser. So to restart Tomcat, we use the command that we had already been shown by Frida, that is sudo service Tomcat 6 restart. Okay, so Tomcat has restarted, and that one can be confirmed. Okay, so after restarting Tomcat, now we can go to our browser. So from the browser, we do localhost. Okay, so when we're done what we're doing, we are continuing with the installation by accessing now the relevant resources via the browser. So to do that, we use the following URL, that is localhost 8080. So up to that point, we can even confirm if Tomcat is okay. When you do localhost 8080 and you press enter, then when you see it works, meaning that you've configured your Tomcat well and it's running perfectly. So we can continue by adding /openmrs to continue the installation. There we are. So here we are, where we are going to continue with the installation. From there, we don't need to change anything. We just press the arrow key to continue. Okay. We don't change anything, just doing the simple installation. There we are. So when we reach this particular point, as you can see, it is asking for the root account password. That is the password. Remember when you were installing MySQL, that is why you were told that if in case you are giving MySQL password, remember that password. Now, this is that particular time that you will need the password among others. So our password was test. That is what I'm going to put here. So just use the password that you gave your MySQL. Don't use mine, because maybe you gave a different password to your MySQL installation. So after doing that, you don't need to change anything. You press next. I don't need to remember that. So from there, we'll continue down there. Don't need to change anything or do anything, just press the next arrow key. So from here, The wizard is creating a DB, creating a user, and also the OpenMRS table structures, and also adding the core data that are necessary for OpenMRS to run. So we'll just give it time to finish, and we'll be able to know when that one is done. For any questions, you can always ask from the chats and you'll get answers. I know I might have been fast, but we're also taking time into consideration. I know some of us are traveling. Okay, so you can always have a repeat of this because the video will be shared in our YouTube channel. You can always subscribe and also get more videos to learn more about KenyaEMR, all these technical stuff, and also user stuff. There's a lot that you can learn from that particular YouTube channel for KenyaEMR. So let's just give it time. When you see bin error, that will definitely show you that your installation is done. Yeah, up to this point, just be patient. Patient is key. The way you are waiting for the prerequisite installation, at times things cannot go your way because you cannot have control over internet at times. So patience is key. It's a good virtue to have anyway. So the moment you see an error bin displayed on the browser, that one means, yes, here we are. So when you see this particular error, it doesn't mean that you've not done anything or there's something wrong with it. It only tells us that the concept dictionary that is currently being used is an outdated one. Okay, so for us to update the concept dictionary, then we'll have to restore a DB, an empty database. You remember you are given a link to download an empty database. So after restoring that particular database, then we'll be able to update the concept dictionary that has got the full database schema that contains all the necessary database structure and concept dictionary that is most updated that is needed. So we can move on to restore an empty database. Okay, so for us to restore the DB, we'll have to, first you need to confirm, do you have an empty database? Okay. From the desktop, you remember it's one of the files that we copied here. So this particular DB is the one that we're going to restore. So you have to confirm that you have an empty DB to move on from here. So to do that, we log into MySQL. To log into MySQL, we use the following command: MySQL -u root n minus p. So when you press enter, remember that password for MySQL. The password that you are told that you need to know it, you will also need it here to access MySQL. So I'll put in my password. Yeah. So for us to restore the DB, you need to know which data to restore that particular DB. As you can see, we have several databases that come with the installation of MySQL. To display the databases, you can do show databases. So from there, you can see we have, those are the databases that we have, but what we are interested in is the OpenMRS database that is being used in this particular case. So we'll specify to use OpenMRS. So when you do that, anything that you're going to do now is going to be affected in the OpenMRS database. That is why you have to specify which database are you working on. So you can see from that is indicated clearly that database has changed, meaning now we are working under OpenMRS database. So to restore a database, we use the following command or keyword with source for that particular database. So you can opt if you master the path to where you've restored your database, or you can come to where your database is. You can right click and then so you for us to restore that DB, we easily, if you can't remember the path, the easiest way is to click and drag it to your terminal. As you are going to see, I'm just going to where my terminal is. I'm using my terminal, and then I just release from there. So it will create for me the path. What I need to do only is to remove the quotes and also have a semicolon after SQL. I remove the other, and there we are. So other than dragging that, then you are required to put this particular path pointing to where your empty database is. So after doing that, you simply press enter for the database to be restored. So it seems my database has a problem. Let me just get another database. Okay, so let me just remove this and have a clean one. I remember when I was copying the other one, there was an error copying it. I think that is why. I hope this one is going to be okay. Correct. So this one has copied successfully. So what we are going to do is just to search for it. Okay, this one will be, okay, it takes a shorter time because it's empty. Doesn't take long. That's okay. As you can see, we are back to the MySQL prompt, meaning that our database has restored successfully. This is the only way you will know that your DB has restored successfully, is when after restore, it comes back to the MySQL prompt. So from here, we know very well that we have restored a new database, meaning that we have replaced the concept dictionary. And remember, there's a user here called OpenMRS user who is supposed to be given access rights for us to not to encounter errors when we restart Tomcat and also refresh our browser. So we'll grant that user privileges and also delete some liquid stuff for us not to encounter errors. So for us to do that, we use the following command of granting privileges. So we'll grant that user privileges using the following commands. So grant all privileges on star. So we are giving this particular user exclusive rights to s_user. So that is the command that we're going to use to grant this particular user privileges. So this will help us not to encounter current or near-T data table creation when you restart Tomcat. So to avoid this, to avoid that particular error, you use this particular command. So when you press enter, and then after that, we now flash privileges for the changes to be affected. So we'll flash privileges so that the changes we have made are affected. And then now the next thing we're going to delete from Liquibase. So command to do that, do the following: delete from Liquibase changelog where ID like KenyaEMR. So you'll take note that the chart starts with capital. Okay, so that is the command to use. Just confirm that the spellings are correct, because any small mistake, then it will tell you this, you have a problem in your syntax. Okay, so you press enter, tell you that 11 rows have been affected. So after that, I think we are almost done. We'll exit MySQL by typing exit, and then you press enter. It will tell you we are back to the prompt at the facility. So from this particular moment, we are going to restart MySQL, and then we restart Tomcat. When that one is done, we'll refresh our browser and see whether our KenyaEMR will be up and running. So to do that, we'll just use the same command we've used previously, that is sudo service MySQL restart. We provide the password. And then after restarting MySQL, we restart Tomcat. So we do sudo service Tomcat 6, restart. Due to the several changes we've made, the files that we've updated, Tomcat will take some time, so we can monitor it through the logs to check whether it's done or not. Either way, you can go to the browser. If you don't do it through the logs, just go to the browser. What you do to the browser is just click on refresh. So when you click refresh, you just wait. So when Tomcat finishes restarting in the background, then our KenyaEMR should be up and running. If in case there's something wrong, it will also tell us by giving us an error message. It will tell you KenyaEMR is not able to start or because of 1 or 3. So from there, we'll be able to diagnose and see where the problem is. So for now, patience kidogo, patient tena, and then we see how it goes. It's almost done, guys. It's as easy as A, B, C, D.
Yeah, as we wait for the KenyaEMR to load, I guess I want to assume that all of us have followed. I'm sure it is challenging to have a technical training virtually like we do. And it's just that there's nothing much we can do about it. We would have really wished to interact with all of you face to face to ensure that you're able to follow and you're able to understand why we do or install or configure some of these components as the two facilitators have taken us through. So in the chat area, I've shared a bit of resources as per the request from various guys. You can download, you can also go there, download, or you can go to the YouTube and watch some of the recorded trainings, especially on installation of Java, Tomcat, and also on MySQL. And as well as you can watch videos on how to install KenyaEMR step by step. So this, we are all very cognizant of the fact that this might not be sufficient, it might not suffice for everyone. And I'm sure some of us have dropped off because maybe because of challenges with following or because of the speed, which again we apologize for. But I guess this is not supposed to be a one-off affair. You need to do a lot of practice on installation, especially if you are doing this for the first time. For those of us who are quite acquainted to this process, you can always help a neighbor. So you can always support your neighbor to ensure that they are also able to do what you are able to do. Okay, then there was this question around what are the differences in terms of use case between Ubuntu server and Ubuntu desktop? And I guess maybe it could be the right time to respond to that, given that we're still waiting for KenyaEMR to load. So in terms of installation process, these particular platforms are identical. The process it takes you to install KenyaEMR is identical. The only difference is at the point of server administration or managing this particular platform. So you realize that for Ubuntu desktop, you can, it's a bit interactive. You can use your mouse and your keyboard to interact with the interface, drag and drop folders, open applications, do everything you need to do, which again for the beginners or for the people who are transitioning from Windows, is a bit familiar and you're able to really follow and interact with the Windows, the Ubuntu desktop. When it comes to Ubuntu server, everything is black. The screen is just black. You can't use your mouse, but you can still use other third-party applications. Like for instance, you can use Party or you can use WinSCP to kind of manage that particular server. But you realize that this takes additional they take an additional kind of overhead or challenge to learn and to master on how you can remotely access your Ubuntu, how to configure your networking so that you can access it through the Windows CP. It takes a while. So that's why we have decided that for the purposes of training, you don't need to take guys through that whole difficult process. But at your own time or with the support from our service desk, you can be taken through how you can always access and administer the Ubuntu server installation and be able to install everything that you need to install on it. One great thing about Ubuntu server is that a server by the name, it is optimized for performance. So you'll realize that if you configure your Ubuntu server well, and maybe you have a high volume facility, you'll realize that the performance is very high. The performance on Ubuntu server is very good. So for high volume facilities, our strongest advice has always been that you install and dedicate an Ubuntu server to manage your database and to manage and to host your system. For small volume facilities, you can do Ubuntu desktop, but then again, because it is familiar, the interaction is easy, you'll find that many people usually start interfering. They either copy some files or remove some files, and before you know it, Ubuntu has crashed and it necessitates you to kind of reinstall. So because of such interferences, sometimes we usually advise guys to go for Ubuntu server, because once you have it there in your corner or in your cabinet, no one will come to touch it. It will be there for life. It will just be running and running, dedicated for the purpose you have installed it for. So in terms of differences, not much differences. The difference lies on the interaction, how you interact with the desktop and how you interact with Ubuntu are different. And also the stability and performance. Server is optimized for performance. Ubuntu desktop somehow is kind of like a PC, which might also doesn't perform well when it comes to supporting or hosting a web service like what we have in OpenMRS. Yeah, so I guess I've delivered on that for a bit as we wait for this page to load. So I don't know if anyone has a question as we wait, so then we can respond. So the floor is open, just raise up your hand and make a comment or ask a question. Yes, Austin.
Yes, thank you, Kennedy. And I hope that in YouTube we have what you've taken us through, because the whole thing was so technical. Most of us are not IT gurus, and I got lost somewhere, and I was asked the AnyDesk. So when I gave out the AnyDesk, I was told to do something BIOS. Unajua hiyo mambo ya BIOS sasa nini. So I think if it's in YouTube, maybe we'll be able to follow up in the due course. But thanks for presentation. At least we know what really happens before we start doing entries in our AMR systems. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Austin. Yeah, I agree with you. The session is a bit technical and it is very easy to get lost. But as I indicated earlier, all of these are in YouTube channel. You can just watch and do it yourself. And they are stepwise kind of guidance. So you can follow as you do it on your own. But I guess the reason you're being asked to do the BIOS thing, which I know some people really don't like, is because your machine has to be enabled to virtualize. It's a security, it's a safety setting on all the machines. By default, it is turned off. But for this particular purpose, you can be free to enable it, so then you can practice all this installation. Okay. Any other person with a question or a comment? Yeah, so also I guess when this is all done, it is good to inform you that we have done clones. We have clone images for both Ubuntu server and Ubuntu desktop. For the machines that utilize 500 GB hard disk, and also for the ones that are utilizing 1 terabyte hard disk. So if you have a machine that is 500 GB hard disk, you can pick a clone image which is already installed. You just pick it and restore it on a desktop machine. It will come with everything pre-installed. So then all you need to do is just to change the name of the facility, and you restore your database, and you are ready to go. So we are trying to kind of make this whole experience easier for our users, so that we focus on the things that matter. We focus on how to manage the system, and also how to support our users and mentoring them on the new platform. So we will be sharing those links also later, but that doesn't stop you from learning how to do what we do. Okay. Yeah, David, we will be sharing the link for this particular session. It has been recorded. As soon as we are done, we'll be converting it to MP4, then we share it on the YouTube. So after this, you'll be able to check. I think from tomorrow morning, feel free to check on YouTube, and you'll be getting it right there. Thanks.
Hello. Okay, let's just be patient. This process to inform you that it's dependent on the resources you allocated in terms of memory size, and also the processing speed of your computer. So that will determine how fast it takes. So for the training, we allocated a few resources due to the nature of the training, and also remember this we are doing on virtual machine. On bare metal, it would be faster than this, and almost done. This is the last process of installing KenyaEMR. So the moment it finishes, and there you go. Just give it a few minutes, should be done. I hope your patience is not running out. It's due to the resources that we allocated. You can imagine 2 GB, and the minimum we require for this is 8 GB for a low volume site. So that is why it's taking this long, but usually it takes very short time for Tomcat to restart. So it's just loading the background. That is why it's taking this long.
Yeah, there's a question here about I cannot save the Tomcat file. I have insufficient rights. What's the workaround? Which file are you referring to, Matthews? You can just unmute and tell us.
This is Matthew. It's the last where something to do with memory, the Java heap memory, where we are replacing, where you're adding that statement in the SOP to the Tomcat file.
Okay, yeah, so what happens is that for you to edit and save any file on Linux environment, you need to open them with the adequate privileges. So every time you want to edit something, you start with sudo. So if you are opening that file, you should have started with sudo gedit or sudo nano, whichever document editing application you wanted to use. But the most important thing is that you should have opened it using sudo. Sudo, we have used it since the time we started this training, and I think none of us are scared to tell you why it is called, we do sudo. Sudo is a way of saying open as administrator. On Windows, I think we right click and say open as administrator. So on Ubuntu, you say super user do. So super user do is like open as an administrator. So that's why we do sudo when we want to edit, when we want to save, when we want to copy, when we want to move any file, we usually do sudo. So yeah, I just thought maybe that would be important. So I guess that's why you are unable to save. So what you can do, you can just cancel that file, then open it with sudo. I don't know if there's anyone else with a question. I'm sure time is already gone, and I'm sure most of us are starting to drop off because of time. But I guess we don't have any other procedure after this. What needs to load on that screen is KenyaEMR, where you just log in and then you start doing your configurations about facility and MFL code and stuff like that. So I want to hope at this point that the session was good, given the challenges. But I guess you'll bear with us because this is the only way we can deliver these particular trainings. So for tomorrow we are going to learn how to install DWAPI, both on Windows as well as on Ubuntu. So for Ubuntu, we are going to use a container called Docker. And on Windows, we are going to install it normally as you would install any other application. So for those of you who have been wondering, how do I install DWAPI and how do I transmit data to the National Data Warehouse? Tomorrow, we are going to take you through the technical installation process for DWAPI on both Windows and also on Ubuntu. So come in early. We'll be started at exactly 2 p.m. So we hope to see you there and we hope to take you through this. Also, if you get time and maybe you wanted to go through KenyaEMR and for some reason you get stuck at night, for those of us who would like to get it done even at night, tomorrow we can spare 10 minutes or so and maybe just try to unstuck you. So then we can continue together. So I don't know if there's anyone with any final comment or any suggestion on how we can proceed better or how we can improve on this virtual training, especially the technical aspect. Maybe you can unmute and share with us. Thanks. So at this point, I guess I don't think it is fair to keep everyone here. You can wait on your machine and see whether you can KenyaEMR loads because there is no any other procedure. That's all that it takes to install KenyaEMR. So the only thing we are waiting for, as you can see on your screen, it is we are refreshing context, and once that is done, and I can see it is done, we'll be able to load KenyaEMR. So I don't think we need to keep everyone here. You can wait for it on your machine and see whether it loads or not. If it has errors, you can post for us. I will be leaving this open until everyone drops off. So on behalf of everyone, I want to congratulate and commend our presenters, Frida Oyucho, Kennedy Ogutu, and of course yours truly for the sessions that we've had this afternoon. So tomorrow we'll go through this one more time, but we'll be handling the DWAPI, and of course we'll be giving a little bit more time to just kind of go through what we've done, just to ensure that it sticks. Yeah, so up to that point, I think I'll just sit here and check on your comment as I respond to them. Otherwise, if yours is already loaded, I don't think it is fair to keep everyone. So thank you very much from Palladium, and I'll see you. Let's meet up tomorrow at exactly 2. But I'll leave the chat open. I will still be here to respond to your questions. So thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, guys, thanks for your patience. As you can see, our KenyaEMR page has just launched. And when we reach this particular point, now we need the login credential. So we have the default login credential for KenyaEMR. That is username, we'll use admin. And then the first one is admin 123 Ace capital. So just press login and we just wait for it to load so that we access the resources in KenyaEMR. So as you can see, we have logged in successfully. When you click on home, you'll be able to see all the modules available that you can use in KenyaEMR. So up to that point, I think we are done with our installation successfully of KenyaEMR. Thank you so much. And just to repeat again, the resources you allocate to your system will determine how fast it will be loading and how fast your system will be running. We allocated few resources in terms of memory, and then also the Tomcat memory. That is why it has taken that long to load. But on bare metal, with the right resources, this process is always very fast. It takes very short time to install KenyaEMR. Otherwise, thank you so much, and you can always get more resources on our YouTube channel, that is KenyaEMR. All resources on how to install from scratch up to the end of it, and more on the usage of KenyaEMR plus other resources that are available from KenyaEMR. Otherwise, thank you so much, and have a good evening. Bye.